I've carried this imprint from a trauma of sexual abuse. And so there's been a history of like abuse with my sexual energy. And it was like this guilt of me needing to give over my body or let people touch me or take photos of me. Like so fucked. Because I needed to take away their pain. Clearing all the shit and all these holograms of me. In the space. And then after that happened, it was so fucking painful. I started being able to see things more clearly. There was things I could tune into before, but I couldn't see it clearly. And that took a little bit to integrate. So this morning, it was kind of this afternoon, it came to completion. This has been my deepest trauma of being chosen but not fully chosen. It was a mirror. Everything's a mirror. And then things started coming. I'm like, where am I not devoting or like honoring myself? And like a client situation came up where like all the payments were bouncing. And then finally I was like, you know what? This is making me energetically weak. So I just decided, I didn't tell her. I just decided she's not honoring me. Like I don't want to work with her. And then all of a sudden, she started fully honoring me. The payments came through. She was so fucking grateful. Like, these are the energetic choices. And then it was, like, illuminated in another area of my life. And then that whole thing happened. There was, like, this undercurrent fear, so I couldn't be fully devoted to something because I was scared. And because this had been a repeated pattern in my life. And then this morning, I was like having all this pain, and I went over to Josh, and I'm like, is this normal? Like, my heart feels like it's getting ripped out. I feel like my solar plexus are getting ripped out. And he's like, yeah, it's normal. So I was like, okay. So I kind of just like, it's a lot on the body. I'm like, okay, just recalibrating. And I was still so freaking emotional. And so it was physical pain, but it was also emotional pain. So I just like lied on that beanbag. All of a sudden, I started like, when I was like lying there, like I started seeing things way more clearly, things that I was tuning into. I was seeing them in the field. I was having memories in my life. And one of the memories came back from this guy that I dated a while ago, and he like cheated on me with like a bunch of people I worked with and friends and other actors. I was an actor back then. And right after that happened, like, I used to work in restaurants, and I was serving this like private party, and they were like super freaking rich. Like, I knew a couple of the people there, and they like all of a sudden all this sexual energy because of what happened. It was like this resentment came up, but it was manipulation. It was thwarted energy. And so I remembered this memory and a few other ones, and I noticed that when I'm in that trauma, I would use this energy to manipulate. And I was like, holy shit. And then I connect the dots of like the darker energies. They use our samskaras, our deepest traumas, our deepest wounds to come into us and to thwart this energy. The problem is when you do that, you're only met with the equal. So you can only be met with manipulation. And so I'm like, connecting all these dots, and then I'm like seeing more in my life and like people in my life, and it was like, oh fuck. And so anyway, so like some things were moving, and then Dustin and I lied down, and I was like, I'm feeling so nauseous. I'm like, I think I need some food. I think the one and ate food, and it made it way worse, and we lied down. Then we went upstairs, and I'm like, I think I'm going to puke. So I went and I puked and I purged. And what I was purging was like, firstly, I was like kind of angry at myself for like these situations and like using my energy in that way when I did. And then I was like, okay, I was tricked. Like, forgive yourself. And then I was just like puking the disgust of that trap. And after I came back into bed, and I was like, I just puked. And then I was just lying there. I don't know for how long. And like something so potent came through, and it was a declaration. And it just came through me. I don't remember the exact words, but I told Dustin, I was like, and I had to purge before that. I had to be so fucking disgusted with that thwarted energy and manipulation and all that shit that it's so common because we're so indoctrinated. Like all the movies, all media, the film industry for sure, it teaches us to do this stuff. And anyways, I just got so disgusted and I purged it all out. And then I said to Dustin, I said, I'm devoted to love, I'm devoted to you, and I'm devoted to union. I am not devoted to distortion, and I'm not devoted to manipulation. And the craziest thing happened. It was like so much light entered my body. Every single cell started like recalibrating, and like all the pain just went away. And I had my hand on his back and I could feel his energy recalibrating. I didn't say anything. And then a few minutes later, he went up and showered and he was cleansing. And then he came back and I was like lying down and I was like, I fucking cracked a code. Like we cracked a code. And then when I touched him after, like when I hugged him, it was like there was always like this kind of like fear and like weird energy under before. And some of it was from like sexual trauma and whatever. But then it was also this like thwarted energy. And then it was just gone. And it was like, I don't know how to explain it because I can't really explain it in words. But he's like, your energy feels so different, like your hand. And I was like, no. And I was like, so does yours. It was like it was like a portal opened. It was so beautiful. And there's one more key code I want to share. Like, there was so much that came through after that. But I noticed, like, when I served at a couple of restaurants, we would have to wear, like, super short skirts. And, like, I manipulated my energy for tips. And as I got on my spiritual journey, because it was, like, all these, like, businessmen and whatever, you flirt with them, whatever, like, they tip you better. It's a thing. It's a distortion. It's a manipulation, and I'm revolted by it now. Thank God, because we've come back to love. So that money that I made at that restaurant, the last restaurant I worked at was very different. We wore like ties and stuff. But the money that I made at that restaurant, most of it I put into my TFSA. Now, when the market dropped during COVID, I pulled most of that money at like a huge fucking loss. Stupidest decision ever. And I tuned into that happened when I started going on my spiritual journey and healing and coming to these higher frequencies. That energy, money's energy, it couldn't come to the higher frequency. And then I remembered a mentor of mine who made millions. She made millions by basically prostituting her energy, not actually being a prostitute, but she would like post pictures and like it was about sex and making money and whatever. And then she fell in love with her current partner and they have a beautiful relationship. She lost every fucking penny of that money because it couldn't come in and live in the frequency of love. So then I noticed like the things we're calling in, like it has to be equal to the frequency that we desire to go to, that we're at, but that also our North Star. Yeah, and that's it. And devoted. And I guess the key point of this is like choose devotion to love, man. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's the master key. Love is the master key.